I'm delighted to be here in Sharm el-Sheikh, representing the United States at the African Development Bank's 2023 annual meetings. It is wonderful to be here with partners from across the continent and around the world who share our dedication to realizing the vision of a prosperous Africa. For the United States, our relationship with the African Development Bank and the African Development Fund are critical to delivering on our shared agenda of economic development in Africa that is inclusive and sustainable, and that lifts people not only out of poverty, but into the middle class. We support the African Development Bank and the African Development Fund because we know the high quality of their workload and their ability to transform economies and change lives. We applaud the successful 16th replenishment of the African Development Fund. As the largest historical donor to the African Development Fund replenishments, we are proud to have pledged a 15% increase in our contribution to the 16th replenishment at a time we know is particularly difficult for African Development Fund countries. We recognize the African Development Fund's 50 years of achievements and the development gains and hope it has delivered for Africa's poorest and most vulnerable countries and people. But we know that there is much more work to be done. Treasury Secretary Yellen, our African Development Bank and African Development Fund governor, has called on the multilateral development banks to evolve their vision, operating models, incentives, and financial capacity to better reflect the changing needs and pressing realities of the 21st century. Nowhere is this more relevant than on the African continent, where great strides have been made, but where many challenges remain. To safeguard development gains and provide a bright future for the continent, we must work together and focus on delivering the maximum benefit through our public financing. To continue to deliver development results that are inclusive, sustainable, resilient, and that support broad economic development, it is time to take a fresh look at what we deliver, how we deliver, and how we can best leverage our resources. In terms of what we deliver, shareholders need to focus on the shared values and goals for Africa and the bank. Africa has faced many shocks in recent years, from the pandemic to regional conflicts and growing terrorism and threats, to the economic and financial fallout from Russia's unjust and illegal war in Ukraine, to the impacts of climate change and a myriad of climate-related shocks. These external shocks have taken lives, derailed economic growth and stability, and even reversed hard-won development gains. They have also exacerbated debt sustainability risks and diminished options to access external financing, undermining productive investments and underscoring the importance of timely debt relief from official bilateral and commercial creditors. To that end, we are committed to working together with creditors, debtors, and international financial institutions to finalize the outstanding debt treatments as quickly as possible and improve the efficiency and timeliness of debt restructuring process. In response, the African Development Bank must evolve to better address these global and regional challenges, challenges that are intertwined and can be either mutually destructive or reinforcing. The development of the African Development Bank's next 10-year strategy is an opportune moment to reflect on the institution's mission and how it can best deliver for the people of Africa. President Adesina's high fives have been an important framing for the key goals of the bank, and we can build on this framework to further amplify our shared values of inclusion, sustainability, and resilience. As we build this strategy, it will be critical to consider how global and regional challenges interact with and impact the bank's mission to spur sustainable economic development, social progress, and poverty reduction at the national level. Without this perspective, African Development Bank projects will fall short of sustainably and effectively addressing challenges with a strong regional and global context, such as food security, energy access, climate adaptation, and development of quality, resilient infrastructure. The African Development Bank should build knowledge on the interaction between global challenges and country development needs and establish incentives for staff and borrowing countries to take these factors into account in developing African Development Bank financing priorities and shaping how the African Development Bank delivers. This could include, for example, reorienting operations to bring relevant global challenges into country engagement and results frameworks, and expanding operations to include support for subnational and supranational entities. In terms of how to leverage resources, it is vital that the African Development Bank implement the G20 MDB Capital Adequacy Framework recommendations, including those that are more complex and must be undertaken over the medium term, like incorporating a prudent share of callable capital into the African Development Bank's capital adequacy framework. Given the significant financing needs on the continent, however, public funds alone will not suffice. A key element of MDB evolution is using the African Development Bank and the African Development Fund resources effectively to unlock investments from the private sector. And we call on the African Development Bank and African countries to find new ways to bring in private finance. That will require innovative ways to crowd in private finance to the bank's work. And it will also necessitate supporting countries as they strengthen investment climates, promote domestic resource mobilization, and build local capital markets. We know the African Development Bank is innovative, and we look forward to working together on this opportunity and challenge. In this vein, we are committed to supporting engagement with the U.S. private sector and institutional investors, work that we continue to strengthen under the Biden administration, most recently during the African Business Forum at the December 2022 African Leaders Summit. We call on African partner governments to continue to make the changes needed to improve the ease of doing business and to strengthen public institutions. This is crucial to bring in the international investment community and to create opportunities for thriving ecosystems of local enterprises of all sizes. We note that regional integration offers significant benefits for the continent, and successful realization of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement is core to the African Development Bank's mandate. Full execution and harmonization are key to deliver on the promise of the African Free Continental Trade Agreement. To deliver on this promise, African Development Bank projects need to reflect how regional and even global trends are impacting how the bank delivers and include this in the design of projects. The United States applauds the institution for the strong successes in delivering on the reform agendas of the General Capital Increase and the African Development Fund replenishment. Now, we wish to see a relentless focus on strong implementation and delivery of outcomes. We call on management to steadfastly deliver on the following commitments. First, we urge the bank to fully and swiftly execute the Integrated Quality Assurance Plan so that all African Development Bank projects have high quality at entry and can deliver results as planned and in a timely manner. Second, we welcome the board approval of the new integrated safeguard system. Safeguards enable the delivery of projects that are inclusive and create lasting benefits. We ask the African Development Bank to fully finance Safeguards implementation and to fully comply with the targets of the Safeguard Strengthening Action Plan. Third, we encourage the African Development Bank to continue to strengthen the selectivity of its programming. The African Development Bank can best deliver results when it focuses on areas of comparative advantage and maintains strict discipline in line with the board-approved selectivity strategy. And now, a word directly to the African shareholders of the African Development Bank. I would like to reiterate President Biden's message to African leaders in December 2022, a message that Secretary Yellen also delivered in her 3-country trip to the continent in January 2023. And that is that the United States is committed to our partnerships on the continent and to tackling challenges with you to support your robust economic growth and development. In closing, I would like to thank the government of Egypt for hosting this message and thank the management and staff of the African Development Bank for your incredible work and dedication. The United States recognizes that the successes of the African Development Bank are due to you and your passion for Africa's development. You have our deep gratitude. It is a privilege to be here as a partner to the African Development Bank and to the governments and people of Africa. We look forward to continuing the conversation together and always striving to deliver more and better. Thank you.